There's an invisible magnetic force that connects two souls across time and space, causing one to obsessively think about the other, even when reason screams to move on. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet who accessed universal truths in a trance state, revealed that when someone constantly inhabits our thoughts, it's never a coincidence. It's always a soul's calling, an echo of spiritual contracts that transcend this physical existence. Have you ever wondered why certain people just won't leave your mind, no matter what you do to forget them? Why some presences seem interwoven with the very fabric of your being, as if they're a part of you? Cayce taught us that our thoughts are living energies that travel across dimensions, and when we constantly think of someone, we're participating in a cosmic dance far deeper than our conscious mind can comprehend. According to the teachings of the Virginia Beach seer, each thought we direct towards another person creates energetic filaments that extend beyond the veil of physical reality. When you think of someone intensely and frequently, you're activating etheric cords woven throughout multiple incarnations. These cords are like threads of light connecting hearts across dimensions, carrying unresolved memories, promises, and lessons from past lives. Cayce often spoke of how souls repeatedly encounter each other across the ages, assuming different roles, sometimes as lovers, sometimes as family, sometimes as close friends, and even as adversaries, always with the purpose of evolving together, healing old wounds, and completing unfinished chapters. When you can't stop thinking about someone, your soul is trying to communicate something essential. It might be that you have a pending spiritual contract, a promise made in another life that needs fulfilling in this one. It could be that this person is a karmic mirror, reflecting aspects of yourself that need to be acknowledged. Or it could be that you are soulmates in the deepest sense of the word, two consciousnesses that originated from the same divine source and eternally seek each other throughout the cosmos, recognizing each other instantly, even when faces and circumstances have completely changed. One of Cayce's most profound revelations was about how souls communicate through what he called spiritual telepathy. When you constantly think of someone, that person is often thinking of you too. There's an energetic dialogue happening between you, a soul-to-soul conversation that transcends the limitations of the physical world. You might be sharing dreams, sending intuitions to each other, or simply maintaining an emotional connection that energetically nourishes you even from a distance. But Cayce also warned about the dangers of unresolved mental obsession. When we compulsively think about someone in a possessive or desperate way, we can create toxic energetic cords that drain our vital energy and hinder our spiritual growth. In these cases, it's important to do conscious energy clearing work, cutting cords that no longer serve mutual growth and transmuting obsession into unconditional love. True love between soulmates doesn't bind, it liberates. It doesn't possess, it blesses. It doesn't demand, it offers. If you're experiencing this constant thinking about someone, you need to first tune in to the quality of that thought. Does it come with peace or agitation? When you think of this person, do you feel expanded or constricted? Do your energies harmonize or create inner turbulence? Cayce taught us that true spiritual connections always elevate our vibration, even when challenging. They make us feel more connected to our divine essence, more compassionate, more aware of our spiritual nature. On the other hand, when constantly thinking about someone leaves us anxious, possessive, or diminished, we may be dealing with a karmic lesson that needs transformation. Perhaps we need to love without possessing, to feel without clinging, to honor the connection without trying to control it. These are some of the most difficult lessons a soul can learn, but they are also the most transformative. They teach us that true love is a force of liberation, not imprisonment. Cayce frequently spoke about how souls make plans before incarnating, choosing the people they will meet together, the lessons they will learn together, and the roles they will play in each other's evolutionary journey. When you constantly think about someone, you may be intuitively remembering these pre-incarnation plans. Your soul recognizes this person as someone important in your evolutionary journey, someone with whom you have spiritual work to do, growth to experience, and love to share. But these connections don't always manifest in the way our conscious mind expects. Sometimes we constantly think about someone because our soul knows that person will teach us about detachment. Other times because they will show us aspects of ourselves that need healing. There are cases where we think of someone because they will be the catalyst for our spiritual awakening, even if it happens through a challenging relationship or a painful separation. The wisdom of the soul transcends the desires of the personality, and what's best for our growth isn't always what our conscious mind wants. The sleeping prophet taught us that every person who crosses our path is a teacher in disguise, but those who constantly inhabit our thoughts are special masters. They hold keys to inner gates we need to open, mirrors that reflect truths about ourselves we need to acknowledge, and spiritual medicines our soul needs to heal. Even when these people seem to cause us pain, they are actually offering us precious opportunities for growth and transformation. One of the most powerful practices Cayce recommended for dealing with obsessive thoughts about someone was contemplative meditation. He suggested that we enter deep silence and ask our soul directly, "What are you trying to teach me through this person? What lesson do I need to learn? What healing do I need to experience? What spiritual gift is being offered through this connection?" The answers don't always come in words. They often arrive as sensations, symbolic images, or sudden insights that illuminate aspects of the situation that were previously hidden. Cayce also warned about the importance of not trying to force or manipulate these spiritual connections. When we constantly think about someone, it's natural to want to contact them, force a meeting, or try to control how the situation unfolds. But soul connections operate according to divine timing, not human schedules. Sometimes the period of constant thinking is precisely the necessary inner preparation before a physical meeting can happen constructively. Other times, it's a healing process that needs to be completed energetically before both souls are ready for the next level of interaction. The Virginia Beach seer frequently mentioned that souls communicate through symbols and metaphors. When you constantly think about someone, pay attention to the symbols that arise in your mind in association with that person. What colors do you see? What landscapes appear? What physical sensations do you experience? These symbols are the language of the soul, carrying information about the nature of the connection you share and about the spiritual work you are doing together, even from a distance. For example, if you constantly visualize this person in water settings, oceans, lakes, rain, it may be that you are working together on deep emotional issues, clearing past traumas, or purifying karmic patterns. If you see them in mountain settings or high places, the connection may be related to spiritual growth, expansion of consciousness, or the development of wisdom. If gardens or forests appear, you may be cultivating something new together, planting seeds of future possibilities, or nurturing aspects of the soul that need to grow. Cayce taught us that time is an illusion of three-dimensional consciousness. On the spiritual plane, past, present, and future coexist simultaneously. When you constantly think about someone, you may be accessing memories of past lives where you loved each other deeply. Or you may be intuiting future possibilities where you will meet again. You may be simultaneously experiencing the longing for who you were with this person and the anticipation of who you will become through this connection. This is why we sometimes feel that we've known certain people forever, even when we've just met them. Our soul recognizes the familiar essence, the energetic patterns we share through the ages, the unique quality of love we've experienced together. When we constantly think about someone like that, we are trying to integrate all these layers of connection, past, present, and future, into our current consciousness. If this message resonates with you, if you recognize these patterns of deep spiritual connection in your own experiences, I invite you to join our community of truth-seeking souls. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, because we'll continue exploring these sacred mysteries together, the connections that bind heart to heart across the cosmos. Your presence here is no coincidence, it's divine synchronicity, and your spiritual awakening journey is too precious to walk alone. But perhaps the deepest aspect of Cayce's teachings on constantly thinking about someone is his understanding that these experiences are ultimately about our relationship with the divine. Every person who occupies our thoughts obsessively is an aspect of the sacred manifesting in our lives. They may be teaching us about unconditional love, forgiveness, compassion, detachment, faith, and acceptance. They may be an angel in disguise, a bodhisattva on a mission, or simply a courageous soul who agreed to play a challenging role in our growth journey. Cayce often said, "We don't meet anyone by chance." But those people who constantly occupy our thoughts are sacred encounters orchestrated by the higher intelligence that governs the universe. They are answers to prayers we've made, sometimes long ago, sometimes in other lifetimes. They are healing opportunities our soul has requested, teachers we've asked to meet us, mirrors we've summoned to help us know ourselves better. The sleeping prophet taught us that when we pray to know true love, the universe sometimes sends us people who challenge us to love unconditionally. When we ask to grow spiritually, we receive situations that force us to transcend our limitations. When we ask to heal old wounds, we encounter people who activate those wounds so we can finally transform them. In this context, constantly thinking about someone can be a form of continued prayer, a spiritual dialogue we maintain with the divine through that person's consciousness. In some cases, we constantly think about someone because we are being prepared to be an instrument of healing in that person's life. Cayce spoke of how souls sometimes volunteer to be channels of love and healing for other souls going through difficult times. When you think of someone with genuine compassion, you are sending healing energy that can help that person overcome challenges, find inner strength, or simply feel less alone on their journey. Conversely, when someone constantly thinks of you, you may feel it energetically. Cayce described how sensitive people often perceive when they are being thought of by others, especially when a significant spiritual connection exists. You might wake up thinking of someone you haven't seen in years, feel inexplicable waves of emotion, or have vivid dreams about people who are physically distant. These are signs that open lines of spiritual communication exist between you. But the most transformative aspect of Cayce's teachings on this topic is his understanding that constantly thinking about someone can be a form of spiritual communion. When you think of someone with pure love, without expectations or demands, you are engaging in a form of shared prayer. You are meeting on the spiritual plane, sharing energy, exchanging blessings, offering mutual support across dimensions. This type of connection can be deeply nourishing for both souls, even when there's no physical contact. The Virginia Beach seer often mentioned that the most evolved souls maintain networks of spiritual connection with many other souls, regardless of physical distance or external circumstances. They communicate through loving thoughts, support each other through silent prayers, and nourish each other through vibrations of compassion. When you constantly think of someone in a high-minded way, you may be participating in this cosmic network of love and support that connects all awakened consciousnesses. Cayce also warned us about the importance of purifying our thoughts about the people we love. When we think of someone with jealousy, possessiveness, or emotional neediness, we create dense energetic cords that can be harmful to both parties. But when we think of someone with gratitude, admiration, and genuine wishes for their well-being, we create bridges of light that elevate the vibration of both consciousnesses. The most important spiritual work we can do in relation to people who constantly occupy our thoughts is to purify the quality of those thoughts, transforming any negativity into unconditional love. One of the most powerful practices Cayce recommended was distance blessing. When you constantly think about someone, use those moments to send specific blessings to that person. Visualize them surrounded by golden light, protected by angels, finding peace on their journey. Send thoughts of gratitude for their existence, appreciation for the lessons they've taught you, and hope that they find happiness in their life. This practice transforms obsession into prayer, neediness into generosity, attachment into true love. The sleeping prophet taught us that some of the deepest connections we experience in this life are with souls we may never see again physically, but who will remain connected to us eternally through the love we share. When you constantly think about someone, you may be honoring this eternity of love, keeping alive a connection that transcends time and space. You may be participating in a form of spiritual immortality, where consciousnesses that have truly loved each other remain intertwined across all existences. Cayce often spoke of how the universe uses our human connections to teach us about our connection with the divine. When we deeply love someone, we're learning to love God. When we miss someone, we're experiencing the longing our soul has for its divine origin. When we constantly think about someone, we're practicing the continuous contemplation that mystics recommend in relation to the sacred. In this sense, every person who obsessively occupies our thoughts is a spiritual teacher, teaching us about different aspects of divine love. There's a profound beauty in recognizing that when we constantly think of someone, we're participating in one of the universe's most sacred mysteries, the ability of consciousnesses to connect through love, transcending all apparent limitations. We're experiencing firsthand the fundamental unity that connects all things, the truth that separation is an illusion, and that love is the most real and powerful force in existence. We're touching, through a very human experience, a very divine truth. When Cayce spoke of the ultimate purpose of human existence, he always returned to the theme of love. According to him, we're here to learn to love unconditionally, to cultivate compassion, to become channels through which divine love can manifest in the world. In this context, constantly thinking of someone can be one of the most powerful spiritual practices we can engage in, provided it's done with awareness and pure intention. The sleeping prophet of Virginia Beach taught us that every significant relationship we have is an opportunity for spiritual growth, but those that make us think obsessively are usually the most transformative. They force us to confront our limitations, to expand our capacity for love, to develop qualities like patience, understanding, forgiveness, and detachment. They teach us that true love isn't possession, but liberation. It's not neediness but abundance. It's not fear but trust in the divine wisdom that governs all encounters. Perhaps Cayce's most profound insight regarding constantly thinking of someone is that this experience is ultimately about our relationship with ourselves. When we can't stop thinking about someone, we're being invited to discover which aspects of ourselves that person represents. What parts of our soul do they mirror? What potentials do they awaken within us? What wounds do they reveal that need healing? What gifts do they help us develop? Each person who inhabits our obsessive thoughts is a multidimensional mirror, reflecting aspects of our own consciousness that need to be acknowledged and integrated. Cayce often said that when we deeply love someone, we're truly loving God through that person. When we miss someone, we're feeling the longing our soul has for its divine origin. When we constantly think of someone, we're practicing the continuous presence that mystics cultivate in relation to the sacred. In this sense, every deep human connection is a pathway to the divine, a way to experience universal love through a particular manifestation. But for this experience to be truly transformative, we need to approach it with wisdom and spiritual awareness. We need to distinguish between love and attachment, connection and obsession, growth and stagnation. We need to use these intense experiences of connection as fuel for our spiritual development, not as an excuse for compulsive or destructive behaviors. We need to honor the sacredness of these connections without trying to control or manipulate them. The sleeping prophet taught us that we're living in a time of collective spiritual awakening, where many souls are reconnecting with their divine nature and their deep spiritual connections. If you're experiencing obsessive thoughts about someone, it may be that you're participating in this awakening, being called to recognize the spiritual nature of your relationships and the sacred importance of your soul connections. It may be that you're being prepared for a higher level of love and understanding, where you recognize each person as an aspect of the divine manifested in human form. Cayce reminded us that we are spiritual beings having human experiences, not human beings having occasional spiritual experiences. In this context, constantly thinking of someone isn't a distraction from our spiritual life, it's an integral part of it. It's a form of living prayer, a practice of continued love, a way to keep our consciousness connected to the sacred through the constant remembrance of someone who represents important aspects of our spiritual journey. When you constantly think of someone, you're participating in a cosmic dialogue that has existed for ages. You're connecting with the infinite web of love that connects all consciousnesses. You're honoring the eternity of true love, which transcends birth and death, meeting and separation, presence and absence. You're touching through a very particular experience a very universal truth, that love is the fundamental force that governs the entire universe, and that through love, all souls are eternally connected. Perhaps, ultimately, constantly thinking of someone is simply our soul's way of reminding us that we're not alone, that there are connections that transcend time and space, that love is real and eternal, and that every person who has deeply touched our consciousness remains forever a part of who we are. It's the universe's way of whispering to us that separation is an illusion, that love is truth, and that all souls are eternally dancing together in the grand symphony of existence. If you recognize in your own experience these sacred patterns of connection, if you feel in your heart the truth of these words, then you already know that you're not here by chance. Your soul chose to be present in this moment, hearing these words, recognizing these truths. May this be a reminder that you are exactly where you need to be on your spiritual journey, connected with all the souls you've ever loved, guided by the infinite love that governs the entire cosmos.